think everyone here knows the definition of dominance. I won't spend too long on it. So that there is just an example of a dominant tree with a couple of back edges showing the control flow graph. So the way I keep track of how much a given instruction dominates is by looking at the basic block that is inside. So if I take that same dominator tree as last time, we do something called, we number it. We do a depth first search numbering. And you start at 1, you descend through the block, and you just add 1 as you go in, and you number it again as you come out. And then you take a look at the distance between those two numbers. So the ones that have more under them are going to have a larger spread between those two values. And I can use that as an index to sort my list of these facts so that the facts that are largest, that apply to everything, get sorted up to the top. And that way, we can just go back to the slide. If I want to know what B is equal to here, it would be useful to see that it's equal to A. But what we really want to do is we want to find the first one that's larger. We want to find the first one that comes above it, not one that's even higher up, because this might be an argument, which is a good choice, but this one here is a constant, which is even better. All right. So we can start at the bottom and do a linear scan. In practice, we don't actually start at the bottom of the list. I use a lower bound. It's a binary search to find where to start looking for. So assuming I have a block that I know is, a spread of 8, I don't need to start with all the tiny blocks with a spread of 1 in them. I can skip all that. Okay. One of the larger pieces of Predicate Simplifier is the inequality graph. Once I've constructed all of these nodes of equivalent values, I then want to start making statements about them. Okay? So this here is the semi-lattice. I guess you can't quite read it again. This represents the possible relationships between those nodes. So if those are, say, A and B are two nodes in the graph, and you want to have an edge between them, that edge could be this is NE, not equals, SGE, signed greater than or equal to, ULE, unsigned less than or equal to. And the types of relationships get more specific as you go. So down here at the bottom, we've got GT, which is sort of for signed greater than and unsigned greater than. Here we've got signed greater than, unsigned less than. So that specifies exactly how the relationship would go. At a particular basic block. See, this here is not actually an example of an inequality graph. This here is a slice of one after you choose the particular basic block you're looking at. The edges don't just have, say, unsigned less than on them. It has C is unsigned less than D under this particular basic block in the tree. So we have two labels on every edge in the inequality graph. It gets kind of complicated at times. For performance, we store all of these edges. We store all of these edges with all the transitive closures filled in. That way, we never have to walk from node to node. If we come across a integer comparison, A and B, is A less than B? We don't want to have to look, is A less than X, is less than Y, is less than Z, is less than B? No, you just take A, it contains the list of all of its edges, and you see if B is in that list. If it's not in that list, we don't know anything about its relationship immediately. So what that means is, if you go to the inequality graph and start adding edges to it, it has to do the additional work of adding these ones here, noted in blue. The reason for this is that every time you add one, it means that we do a whole lot of extra work. We want lookups to be as fast as possible because they happen much, much more often than actual additions or modifications to the data, the analysis. Value ranges. Okay. This would be the meat of value range propagation. And that would be actually keeping track of what the possible hard numbers are for any given node, any given variable. So you may have, say, a comparison x is greater than 10, x is less than 100, and those results together. And you branch on it. On the true side, you know that it has to have a value range of 10 to 100. And this is much more efficient than storing it in the inequality graph. Because you store constants in the inequality graph, you have to have relationships between them. You have to have that 10 is less than 100. And then if you want to add another one in the middle, you have to fill in all the transitive components. So 10 is less than 50 is less than 100. And you get an ON squared explosion of these. Honestly, the most common use for this is actually pointers. It just stores if the pointer is not null. The value range includes everything but 0. That's what happens with it at the moment. Okay. Now that we've got the 3, just 1 second, 3, was that 5 minutes to go?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Didn't think it was that long, I'm sorry. So, as we learn new things through the symbolic execution, as we go through the instructions, we add them to a list of things because we want a list of instructions we need to reanalyze, because that may in turn lead to other facts about the program. Why don't I take us straight to this example, which showed what's going on quite clearly. Inst combine and simplify CFG won't do this one because there's a use of A outside. What we have here is an add instruction. A is add of B and C. Later on, we discover that B is 5. Later on, we discover that C is 3. We do the work list when it's discovered that C is equal to 3. We'll go back and say, okay, I've discovered something new about C. Who uses C? Who uses it as an operand? And it goes back and it sees the A. And so I say, okay, ops to def. I've learned something new about the operand. Can I learn something about the definition? And it reanalyzes it, and it looks up B and says, oh, I know B is 5 under here. It looks up C, oh, I know C is 3. Well, add of 5 and 3 is 8. So it says, all right, under this scope, I know that A has got to be equal to 8. And it will take that out and replace it with 8. And again, no other pass in LLVM is actually going to do this